I like the oxygen I need to survive. I'll be honest. Loving the thought of me, I am so obsessed. I want to chop your heart. Never did it back at this shit. Open up, make us feel. Yeah, my love, one thing. Me make a bad man sing.
Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial. 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial.
Good morning, and welcome to the month of September. Happy new month. And thank God it's Friday. There's just a whole lot that's happening all at once. It is the ninth month of the year, and there's still a whole lot that you can still achieve, of course, but we're not focusing on that. We're just taking it as it comes and, celebrating the little wins that are coming along the way. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos, and it's time for us to look through the papers, and let's see what we have trending in the papers. This is Trends in the Papers, where we look through the major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We have our papers here with us in no particular order: The Nation, The Punch, Vanguard, and The Guardian. 8:40 for Mainland Focus, where we pick one or two or more major trending stories, flesh things out, and then open up the phone line for you, our dear amazing listener, to share your thoughts and contribution as regards the focus for this morning. But in the meantime, I hope that we are still staying positive. It's a new month, meaning there's something new that's about to happen for you. All you have to do is just believe, keep the hope alive, and take care of yourself, as Fuhad would always say. Well, we're always here advocating for positivity and hope. Well, not that kind of hope, but just stay hopeful for a better one to come. My name is Omobola Sandra, and I have Fuhad Sahid via the phone line giving analysis to our stories this morning. Good morning, Fuhad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. And how are you doing?
I'm well. Happy New Month, Fuhad.
Yeah, happy New Month to you. The Ember months are here.
Yes. It's Owambe time. It's Owambe.
Well, a lot of, I think, parties, weddings, most especially.
Yes.
Well, we wish everyone that will be celebrating, weddings, any kind of occasion, this Ember month. And I think this is all the months that we talk about safety, safety on our roads and all of that. But again, we wish Nigeria well as we go into the last lap of the year.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. Now, let us see what we have trending from the papers this morning. We'll start with the Guardian newspaper, and the major headline on the front page of the Guardian newspaper is Democracy Without Elections. How Emperor governors, ad hoc administrators collapse grassroots governance in 238 local councils. Fuad, I guess the conversation would never end. I remember political roundtable last week, there was the conversation as regards local government, local councils, and then just this week, the embarrassing, very, very embarrassing and demeaning, situation that happened in Ogun State as well. And now, yesterday, we got the reports that, the said local government chairman was suspended by his council. And now we have here as the major trending story on the front page of The Guardian, how emperor governors, ad hoc administrators collapse grassroots governance in 238 local councils. What are your thoughts as regards grassroots governance and this, in quote and unquote, emperor governors?
Well, Sandra, I think, we've talked too much, not too much, but we've delved into this matter severally. The attitude of our governors who have turned themselves into demigods, and have completely stifled our local government administration in Nigeria. Again, I think we have to thank the editors of the Guardian newspaper for doing a fantastic job highlighting these issues, setting the agenda for us to have what I can call constructive conversations about development and democracy in Nigeria. Local government administration is an agenda that we have to continue to talk about, Sandra, really. If we're going to be talking about dividends of democracy, grassroots development, because that is the government that is closest to the people. I grew up in an era where local governments were functional, and you could see them function effectively. You know, they were closer to the people. They were able to take care of inner roads. They were able to, you know, you could see governance close to you. You could relate with them. On the average, you could even talk about your local government chairman. You knew your fellows. That was where local governments were functioning. But unfortunately, we have a situation with the same governors who are talking about devolution of power, who are talking about resource control, who are advocating for more power to be given to governance at the state level, and not doing the same to a lower level of government in their state, which is the local government. And that is why it is important that as an agenda, we continue to push the government to talk about proper federalism, true federalism, to ensure that our local government function properly. Sandra, that would not happen until we review our constitution. And basically what we need to do is to first look at this joint account that is operated by the state government and the local government. Because that's one of the biggest aberrations we have in our constitution. You know, a situation where the allocation of the local government also has to get to the, you know, account of the state government under a joint account arrangement. And that's where the problem starts. And then the idea of state governors taking over all of the powers of the local government in terms of revenue generation and functionality, a whole lot of things are wrong, and our governors have become demigods. I think the high point of everything was what we saw in Ogun State in the last 1 week, where a particular governor, a non-performing governor, in all estimation, Sandra, you know, if you were to compare the governors that have ruled before him, Adapabiodun could well go as one of the worst performing governors ever in Ogun State. And I say that with all sense of responsibility. Sat down on a table like a demigod, watching the humiliation of supposedly democratically elected local government chairman, frustrating for him. Sandra, that is the highest of it all. It captures everything we've been talking about as far as local government administration is concerned in this country. We are hoping to have a change. We are hoping that this will change. We are hoping that this government, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has always been an advocate of a proper restructuring of the country, you know, do something. Put up a legislative framework to have us change what we are doing now. We are hoping that this government will understand that, look, it has to be about political legacy, not about building a political empire. But we have to wait to see whether the government will go in that direction.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. Just as the Guardian reported, bizarre scenes in Ogun State this week, where we had 18 out of the 20 local government chairmen in Ogun State publicly prostrated before Governor Dapo Abiodun, signposed the reptilian obscence that democracy has assumed at the grassroots nationwide. According to this report, it says here that the crux of the local government problem nationwide is fiscal, meaning that the sharing formula of the statutory allocation from the federation account, it seems to be the major issue here, where most states appropriate 48% accrual and grants to local government at their own discretion. Whether or not some local government gets or not, we don't even know. Fuad, remember some months ago we talked about a story where a local government chairman came forward and she said out of the 100 million that was allocated to her, she got 3 million. 3 million out of 100 million.
You know this local government chairman in Ogun State, this 𝐴𝐴 guy. What he's even saying is that for some months now, nothing has been paid to them from the state level. The governor has just, that's what he's saying. That's a big. And, instead of the governor, coming up with that ridiculous idea of having local government chairmen filmed prostrating for him, all he needed to do was to bring out the books. It's a very simple thing. Open up the accounts of the state. This is the joint account. This is the money I received from the federal level that's supposed to go to the local government. This was how I disbursed it to them to counter the allegations of the local government chairman. So instead, what did we do? He sat down there like an emperor. Look, some of these guys need to be told the truth. They are nothing, if not for politics. Because if you could, with all your education and exposure, if you can allow that to happen before you, then as far as I'm concerned, in terms of rating, you are zero. So instead of him to come around, bring up the books of the state, this is what came to me from as local government funds from the federal government. This was how I disbursed them. Nothing was said. The only thing was, I've not been tampering with them, blah, 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 and then the next thing you film them frustrating for you. Does that cancel the allegation? Does that exonerate him? Sandra, it's a very sad narrative. The commentary we are having, Sandra, it's so sad. It's so sad because what we have is pure corruption going on at the state level as far as local government funds are concerned.
So that's where the crux of this is now, which is what the Guardian is trying to point out. Aside from allocation being the major issue, now is the fact that we have democracy without elections. Fuhad, out of the 774 local governments nationwide, about 238 across 13 states are currently led by administrators appointed
by the governor.
By the governors. Not elected, which is supposed to be how it's supposed to go. We're supposed to elect our local. When was the last time we had local government elections for had? So that's what the Guardian is trying to bring. Yes, I'm with you.
You see, that's again, the emperor governors. They decide when to conduct local government elections. Sandra in Edo State, Obaseki has suddenly realized that he needs to conduct local government elections. He's been there for how many years now without conducting any local government elections? So what they do basically again is to just appoint administrators. And you know who are these administrators? They are political cronies, they are stooges. So whatever they do to those ones, they can't even contest it. And so only when a transition is going to happen, they are going to leave power. What they now do is to now conduct a kangaroo local government election, which will be completely rigged by the state independent electoral commission in their favor. Sandra, how do you now have a situation where across Nigeria now, if the governor is APC, all the local government chairmen, when they conduct elections, will be APC. If it is PDP, all of them are PDP. If it is, it's a charade, it's a shame. And again, that's why we are questioning. Is there a problem with democracy in Africa? Is there a problem? Is it that the black man does not understand, the black African does not understand the simple tenet of democracy? Is it a problem? What is a problem exactly with our understanding of how democracy should run?
Well, as much as I would like us to continue having this conversation, because not enough attention is being paid to the grassroots, governance. Honestly, Fuad, I told you I just this week or last week, this week I went for some interviews and I gave you some reports.
And you got the shock, the shocker of your life.
So I think not enough attention is being paid to grassroots governance, honestly. But we have in this particular report here, finally, on a final note, is the fact that there's a quote here that's been highlighted that nothing can stop governors from doing whatever they like. Till tomorrow, no council chairman can stand up to the governor. Otherwise, the state assembly will be deployed to deal ruthlessly with such chairman. I also imagine how many councils are receiving its allocation directly from the federal allocation. And even when they do, I doubt if they can administer such a fund without the directives of the state. It will also be difficult for any governor and political parties to take their eyes away from the local government, because that is what they use to mobilize for elections. Very unfortunate situation that's been highlighted here. But as said by the journalist who wrote this report, 𝐴𝐿, said the near absence of democracy at the local councils has not only crippled development but questioned the democratic credentials of several state governors. I'm just leaving it at that on a final note. But then more details on pages 4 and 5. Democracy without elections. The grassroots governors.
And these governors who call themselves Democrats. You ask them now, they say they are Democrats. That we are deceiving ourselves, Sandra.
For the governor, by the governor, to the governor.
But they are emperors. In fact, people will tell you that it's better to become a governor than a president. Nobody talks about you. You just do as you like. You sit down there, on people's resources, you perform. Look, how many governors are even performing? Where are the state roads? Where are the state infrastructure? They collect allocation and pocket. Remember the Niger Delta governors too, the last time. All the allocations to them. Wike was the one that opened the can of worms. Ask them what are they doing with their own resources. None of them could give account. Sandra, I don't know. It's a big problem. It's a very big problem.
Very big one. Very, very big one. There are no roads in Mushin. What? I'm just saying it too.
You can't blame your local government chairman. You know whether he's not even getting any allocation. The problem is that the little one that comes to them, they too will have to do something now. I mean, they're not going to take care of themselves. So you think they will fix roads?
Yeah, they are staff members. They'll still pay salaries and all. They are staff members.
They'll pay salaries and they themselves will take care of party leaders. Their party leaders that will be on their neck too. Some have you visited a local government office? They said, okay, you did one recently.
As I did.
All those crowds you saw at the local government secretariat, what do you think they are there for? You think they are staff of the local government?
For good governance.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you.
They are there for good governance. Let's move on from that story. Stories on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Very unfortunate situation. The collapse of grassroots governance. Well, moving on from that story, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we have here CBN banks investigate suspected $1 billion currency counterfeiting. And that story is on page 18 of the Guardian newspaper. So let's just quickly see what that report is giving us. The Central Bank of Nigeria has launched an inquiry into an alleged $1 billion currency counterfeit deal involving a Nigerian and other internationals. There's a memo dated August 23rd giving insights to the inquiry and marked confidential and was addressed to banks and financial institutions. The counterfeited dollar, according to the letter, is meant for the African market. The Apex Bank said, I'm with you.
I think people should look well before you could, collect dollars from anywhere.
Well, I mean, there's an inquiry now being done. But the memo signed by the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Chibuzo Efobi, titled Administrative Letter to Banks and Other Financial Institutions. Arrest of a Nigerian and 4 other nationals for alleged involvement in currency counterfeiting. So, Fuhad, yes, this is a problem. Yes, thank the CBN for highlighting this. Yes, it's a good one and all of that. But the issue of forex scarcity. Yes, do you think that is what may or may not have built up to where we have people now coming together to counterfeit?
To do counterfeit.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's not impossible, but I just think, a criminal would always be a criminal, irrespective of the situation. Even if there's no
scarcity. Just took advantage of the situation.
You just want to take advantage of people.
All right.
And unlike our own local notes, it may be extremely difficult to really detect fake dollars. It's not like the usual thing we spend on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it might be easy for me, for example, to discover a fake 100 naira note or 200 naira note,
because against the dollar, that's not everybody.
Dollar that how long did I even touch a dollar now, Sandra?
What? I don't know. I don't know why you are lying on radio.
It's been long I saw a dollar.
Well, I don't know how long it's. I don't know what you mean by long. Maybe 2 months ago. I don't know, but
it's been long.
Okay.
So, but it's important that the CBN investigates these security officials to and check, because this will be a syndicate. It can't be just a loan deal.
It says here that the arrest was actually made by Turkish authorities. So it was Turkish authorities that arrested a Nigerian citizen, yes, and 4 other nationals for involvement in this. The suspected individuals are Dele Bolade Samson, who owns a Nigerian and Swedish passport. There's also a Ghanaian, King Kwasi Arin, a Briton, Natal Jacob Weiss, and 2 Swedish citizens. So all of them.
A syndicate, yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. Well, we hope that something will come out of this inquiry and we won't have fake dollars flooding the markets. More details on page 18 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's keep moving now. We also have here revenue falls by 23% as federal, states, and local governments share 4.37 trillion naira. All right, the story is on page 26 of the Guardian newspaper. So just very quickly, Nigeria's 3 tiers of government, the federal, states, and local government councils, shared a total of 4.37 trillion naira from the federation account as statutory revenue allocations between January and June this year. And the report is coming from Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. The revenue flowing into the federal purse went down by 23% in the second quarter of the year, pushing down the funds received by the tiers by about 12%. But then we have some states that are, that received higher than some states, but that's not even the crux. The crux is that, our revenue went down by 23%, which meant that all 3 tiers now had to share a measly or 4.3 trillion naira.
trillion naira. Well, I think the government is trying to raise the revenue, so I think we'll naturally go up. I assume that, disruptions in our transition, it was an election year, a lot of lack of concentration on revenue drive. The last government really did not concentrate on a whole lot of things, but I think all of those loose ends is what we're seeing this government trying to do now. I think the revenue drive is going to pay off eventually for this government, and I'm sure by the end of this quarter, first quarter next year, I think we may be seeing better revenue generated by this government. The tax reforms too, I'm sure, will also pay off eventually. Where you might not have government sharing more. As we share, we hope that to take down.
Fuhad, we can't hear you. Maybe you should move a bit. No, it is not. No,
okay.
All right. We'll try to reconnect with Fuad so we can hear clearly his analysis of the story that we're taking this morning. You are listening to Trends in the Papers on mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. And we're currently looking at the story on the front page of The Guardian, which says revenue falls by 23% as federal and states and local government, local governments share 4.37 trillion naira between January and June this year. So there's a whole lot to still expect. I mean, that's just the first half of the year. But then the report, however, noted that each tier of government received more than 1 trillion naira over the 6-month period. There's a breakdown of the revenue receipts showed by the federal, the states, and of course the local councils. But then we can't take all of that now. Consequently, the report also revealed that the allocation received by the federal government over the period increased by 19.8%. They got 1.78 trillion from 1.4 trillion in the corresponding period in 2022. So it's a very long read. You can get all of the details on page 26 of The Guardian. Fuad?
Yeah, like I was saying, I assume because it was an election year, there were a lot of things that the government didn't really focus on as far as revenue generation is concerned. We still had a lot of problem with oil theft, which was supposed to help us with revenue generation. But I think this government is already tightening all of those loose ends. The tax reforms, I'm sure, will pay off eventually. So I'm sure by the end of this quarter, first quarter next year, we might have a situation where the 3 tiers of government will have enough to share, more money to share amongst themselves. But as those monies come in, we are hoping that it trickle down to the lives of the ordinary people. We are hoping to see good governance when enough money is now available to government.
Thank you very much. For had more details, as mentioned on page 26. Now, we also have here, after 244 years of reign, sit-tight African leaders review security architecture.
they don't
So that's Rwanda and Cameroon. So many experts were already saying that, Gabon, but that means Cameroon should sit tight. If not, Cameroon, is next. So let's be watching.
It's a francophone country, and they have a sit-tight leader, and if you look at the pattern, if you look at the way the thing is going, one would know that some of these things are, anything can happen. You can just wake up and hear that something has happened in Cameroon, it has happened in Equatorial Guinea. Rwanda, I'm surprised, Paul Kagame, a leader that was coming from a very terrible genocide, who came in with so much hopes. The thing about leaders, because people will argue that Paul Kagame has been doing well, he's been a performing president. But it's not a chieftaincy title, it's not monarchy. The beauty of democracy is that transition, term limit. You finish your term, give it to somebody else. You're not the only one in the country. If you understand and that's the problem African leaders don't understand. No matter what you think about your performance, the beauty of democracy is in the ability of others to also participate. Who knows? There might be somebody in Rwanda who has a better idea of how to improve the lives of Rwandans. So it can't just be for Kagame alone. You understand what I'm saying? And now he's restructuring the security architecture. We are hearing that he has sacked some generals. He has retired some military officers. Paul Biya too in Cameroon has also been, doing one or two things. But they are just deceiving themselves. The only thing that will keep them in power is if they respect the tenets of democracy. and that is allowing the wills of the people to prevail in an election process.
Well, following the seizure of power by Gabonese military junta on Wednesday, making the country the seventh in the wave of countries to succumb to military coup in the continent, Rwanda and Cameroon unveiled significant shifts in their security forces, impacting senior military personnel. There's a long list, just in case someone is wondering why this is, in the conversation. Specifically, no less than 7 African leaders have hung on to power for at least 2 decades. All right, we have Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, 37 years as president of the country. We have Teodoro Mbasogo of Equatorial Guinea, 44 years. You have Paul Biya of Cameroon, 48 years. You have Denis Nguesso of Republic of Congo.
Nguesso, yeah.
Nguesso, that's 38 years. Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea, that's 30 years. Paul Kagame of Rwanda, 23 years, and Ismail Omar Guelleh of Djibouti, 24 years, which means collectively, all of these people have held on to power for 224 years.
At least individually more than 2 decades. Some of them 3-4 decades. Just imagine.
All of them more than 2 decades. There's none here that is less than a decade. There's none here that is 4 years. And it begs a lot of questions, but then one would think that is what exactly is going through the minds of our African leaders? Is it that maybe the style of government that we are trying to emulate from the colonizers, maybe it's not working for us? Maybe there should be some sort of different structure designed for African leadership. What do you think?
Please, Sandra, democracy is not the problem.
Okay.
It is Africans that have refused to understand and practice democracy the way it ought to be practiced. That's the problem. Democracy is clear. A simple definition is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? Very simple. The one that has been the common general definition. Can we just open the ears of these leaders and repeat that definition to them again? That is the government of the people, by and for the people. For a few people, just speak. Look at how embarrassing now. The Gabon president, Omar Bongo, telling people to now make noise. I don't know the kind of noise he wants people to make now. And Sandra, just yesterday I was discussing with a number of persons that as far back as 1914 or so, one of our colonial masters, a very popular one, Lord Lugard, wrote something about Africa and Nigerians, black Africans and Nigerians. Explaining what he had noticed about us, especially when it comes to our lives, when it comes to power, when it comes to democracy, when it comes to organizing ourselves. If you read what Lord Lugard said about us, the first thing that will first come to your mind as an African will be, he's talking as a racist. It's just racism because he's a colonial master. But if you read that statement line by line, the statement is so accurate that you think that he's just talking about us now. It's so relevant to our situation. After he has written that about 1914, just imagine how many years ago he wrote that about Africans and Nigerians. There's a problem about our leaders understanding the basic principles of democracy.
Yeah, but so do you think that this attempt by Rwanda and Cameroon, reshuffling their military and all of that, do you think in any way it would give any desired results or to fix any issue that they think might be brewing in their countries?
Sandra, again, as media practitioners, again, we understand that our job thrives on independence of the media. It thrives on freedom and the liberty to be able to express ourselves. As a result of that, we would never encourage any form of military takeover, not even in the country or anywhere in the world. Because again, it goes in contrast to what the media stands for, which is freedom and the ability to express yourself without being gagged. But be that as it may, Sandra, for those that are trying to tinker with their military structure, they are just deceiving themselves. I think some of them are forgetting that in history, we have had situations where the closest military guys are the ones toppling government. That of Omar Bongo, Bongo in Japan.
Oh, Ali Bongo.
Ali Bongo, sorry. They've forgotten that the guy that has now toppled his government is the guy that was supposed to be in charge of his security. The presidential guard. And in the past too, Sandra, we have seen situations where ordinary commissioned officers of the army have staged coup before. successful coup before. What, not high-ranking soldiers, who sometimes colonel, sometimes even a sergeant, in toppling government before. It's not about trying to change. It's about allowing the will of the people to prevail. What they are trying to do is to postpone the evil day. They are just postponing the evil day. The reality is that they should allow the will of their people, as far as governance is concerned, to prevail. That's the only thing that will save them. Let them tinker with their military architecture for as long as they want. Something will happen one day if they don't allow the will of the people to prevail.
All right, thank you very much for that. This is still Trends in the Papers on mainland 98.3 FM. We're just through with the Guardian newspaper. Let's move on now very quickly on to the Punch, where we have a continuation of the story that we just took from the Guardian, which is fear of coup. Africa Union suspends Gabon as Cameroon, Rwanda retires generals and over 1,000 soldiers. We have riders here that says Africa Union says suspension in force until democracy is restored. Niger humanitarian crisis looms. Niger junta orders forceful eviction of French ambassador, cancels envoy and families' visas. Well, the story is on page 2. There's still a whole lot that is still going on.
Just 1 minute, Sandra.
Yes, Fuad.
This African Union, when these leaders meet, what exactly do they tell themselves about democracy? So when they sit back at the African Union summit and they watch leaders manipulating electoral processes just to remain in power, do they tell themselves the truth about what democracy is supposed to be about? You know, there's a very embarrassing video of Ali Bongo, I think in 2018, where he was being interviewed, and there was a question as to term limit. That why is it that African leaders don't respect term limits? And if you see the way he was responding, and in that interview, he even said that when they sit down as African leaders, to a great extent, they have now agreed that term limit does not really make sense. Because sometimes you have a leader that has not completed what he's doing, and so second time people no longer listen to him. What you can call a very warped argument coming from Ali Bongo. And one would assume that that is the general thinking of African leaders. And they need to change. Unfortunately, maybe African leaders are not paying attention. The awareness level amongst Africans have increased. Social media is helping. The conventional media and traditional media is also helping. The information level has changed. It's not like that of old when people are not really exposed and are not available to get information. Information is now very available, and the resistance is going to come from the people to some of these city leaders.
Wow. Meanwhile, there's a serious humanitarian crisis is looming in Niger Republic as the vulnerable population, particularly women and children, are facing hunger and other hardship in the aftermath of the sanctions imposed on the country by ECOWAS. Well, this came to light as the Niger junta ordered the police to forcefully evict the French ambassador, Sylvain Ite, from the country.
France is daring the military junta, Sandra. I think a 1-week ultimatum was given by the military junta in Niger for the French ambassador to leave. And he has refused. The envoy are still there. And, the thing is this. The junta cannot, for example, forcefully go into the embassy and evict the French envoy. So again, Sandra, there's something that we're not paying attention to. What exactly is now the foreign policy of France to some of these their former colonies? Macron has not been making definite statements. He's been so quiet. Because the French policy of assimilation still ties a lot of these former colonies to the strong apron strings of the French government. In fact, a lot of their central banks are still domiciled in Paris. And a lot of things still go. It's unlike our Francophone countries where the British left us. It was a policy of association, and so they are not really involved in our domestic affairs. That's not the situation with Francophone countries in Africa. But I'm surprised that we are not really getting definite statement from France as to what is happening with their former French colonies in Africa, if you understand what I'm saying. But I think that there must be something that France is trying to do. But again, as journalists, we've been trying to probe into it. We've been listening to some of our foreign counterparts to get proper analysis as to what is the French foreign policy now to some of these French colonies. But nothing is clear yet, Sandra. Nothing is clear for now.
All right, thank you very much. Well, there's a whole lot to take from this particular report. Some agencies are using, we have, as regards food, trying to get food to them. The United Nations, so many people are trying to get through, but then we have this. Oh, the sanction that's just looming, and it's just making things a little bit difficult for these organizations. But then more details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. The fear of coup as Africa Union suspends Gabon, and we see Cameroon and Rwanda retiring their generals and soldiers. Well, we'll see if that would achieve anything.
Maybe they should retire all the soldiers.
Maybe
So
just
they are no soldiers.
let's not have any military might, just everybody just go. Well, let's move on now. Still on the front page of the Punch, this very unfortunate incident that happened in South Africa, in Johannesburg, where there's a building fire where 12 children and over 60 other people died in that particular fire. Very, very unfortunate. The president of Nigeria has sent his condolences on behalf of all Nigerians to South Africa. But then what exactly happened? There's a fire that ripped through a 5-story building in central Johannesburg overnight. I think that's what made it even worse. The fact that it happened at night. Well,
but standard, when you talk about safety standards for building,
thank you.
One of the things you consider even at the point of coming up with architectural design is what you call, safety exits in case of a fire situation. So because, again, I listened to the South African president, and what he was saying, he talked about the response of firefighters, that they came in 10 minutes, and to him, he considered that response very good, and it should be highlighted. But when they came in 10 minutes, how did it get to the point where the fatality rate got to that level? Was it that there was no safety exit plans, in case of fire, where there no... it's still, because again, the 5-story building, for you to have that number of persons killed in that fire requires a lot of stuff.
Get out.
I don't know. It's so sad, really, very, very sad.
Well, he said there were some people that managed to break open a locked fire escape gate. I don't know how you lock a fire escape gate. The purpose of the fire escape gate is for it to be accessible.
Make it very easy for people to leave in case of fire.
Yes, but then you have people that were burnt with beyond recognition, meaning
they were trapped. Yeah.
Trapped, completely trapped. Very unfortunate. And the issue is even the fact that the building is an abandoned building, actually. It's not like it's a housing complex or anything. So you just had some people, who they were just squatting in there. And most of those that were living there were foreigners. People who did not have, accommodation and all of that. So, very unfortunate.
Probably just crammed themselves up there.
We don't yet know. We don't know yet what the cause of the fire is. But more details on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. All right. We also have still on the front page of the Punch, oil theft. Navy arrests Tompolu's men. Security firm kicks.
You see the confusion. Can you now see the confusion?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Well, the story is on page 24.
You know where the confusion is coming from, Sarah. Just take your story. You will know where the confusion is coming from.
The Nigerian Navy on Tuesday allegedly aborted an attempted oil theft at Lekki waters and arrested 4 men identified as men of Tantita Security Service, which is owned by a Niger Delta ex-militant leader, or popularly known as Tompolo. They were arrested by men of the Nigerian Navy stationed at FOB Lekki at waterways near the Itolu community after residents raised an alarm following gunshots from the water side. While parading the suspect, they said they were arrested while they were attacking a local from whom they tried stealing a boat engine. Fuad, reviewing this particular information, okay, no, let me get
don't confuse. What is the problem?
No, I have 2 stories here, so I just wanted to get your thoughts here, because what I have is that upon arrival at the scene, the naval team met 4 individuals dressed in black polo shirts with Tantita inscribed on the back, trying to recover a dismantled outboard engine from a local. The team recovered the engine, then apprehended the 4 Tantita employees. So it was after this arrest that the patrol team realized that the 4 individuals were part of a movement of a large wooden boat with 2 fiber boats. And they arrested them, beckoned on the 2 fiber boats, and when they got there, the other boats tried to run away. And then when they got there, they now found out that, there were GP tanks with products suspected to be stolen crude oil was found on board. Yes, I'm with
Sandra,
you.
Between the so-called Tantita, who are the Tompolo people, and the Nigerian Navy, there's still a lot of things that we don't know about this crude oil theft. There's a lot that is still shrouded in secrecy and mystery. Because the reality is that the people that are stealing these products are not ghosts and spirits. One of our callers will say they are human beings. And there's no way our security officials will wash their hands off clean crude oil theft in the country. There have been a lot of allegations against soldiers, naval officers. The governor of Rivers, former governor of Rivers, 𝐿 had always talked about the fact that, look, a lot of our security officials, when they come into the Niger Delta, they abandon their duty and join the oil theft cabal because there's a lot of money in it. The problem with the Tantita arrangement is that we knew that eventually there's going to be a collision because, recently there was a boat that was arrested by Tantita, and it was said that the naval officers were escorting the boat.
Thank you.
So now you now have Navy arresting a boat now and saying that they now met Tantita people in it. Do you understand what I'm trying to? You understand? So it's like if you do this to me, I do this to you too. That's what I'm saying from this report. But I think that if Nigeria is serious about fighting this crude oil theft, I think we should think more about deploying technology. I just think we should do more, plan more, and come up with an idea where we can use technology to help ourselves. I was looking at Aramco, how Aramco tracks crude production, from all their facilities. It's just one room, a very big room, and every of their pipelines are monitored using technology. In fact, from that documentary, he said that a liter, not even a liter of crude, leaves Saudi Arabia without it being accounted for. Those are using technology. And I think that's what the government should look into. All of these Tantita Navy arrangements is not working and may never work. The level of corruption is too much.
All right. So is this a back and forth between Tantita and the naval officers, or we're just going back now? One arrested one and one wanted to arrest the other. What exactly is happening? Or do we have the fact that? Oh, look at that. Well, thank you very much, Fuad. We hope to get you back on soon. But that's the question I would have loved to get some answers to. But there are more details on page 25 of the Punch newspaper. I also have here on the front page of the Punch, very quickly, airport expansion. Government to demolish multi-billion naira Lagos private jet terminals. And the writer to that is federal government to evict over 22 jets. Keyamo relocates foreign airlines to new terminal. The story is on page 19 of the Punch newspaper this morning. So what we have there is that the federal government has said it will demolish 2 multi-billion naira private jet terminals and aircraft hangars to pave the way for the expansion of the new international terminal of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development made the disclosure during an inspection tour of facilities at the Lagos Airport on Thursday. And he said the private jet terminals were obstructing the expansion of the apron of the new Chinese-built terminal, which was opened in March 2022. So, according to him, we have to find a way to use the new terminal. Like in many other countries, we have to get emergency procurement to buy big buses and move passengers to where the big planes can stop for both arrivals and departures so that Nigerians can have some form of comfort. The long-term plan is that we are going to find a way to build avio bridges for the big aircraft coming in, and that means some of those private hangars will have to go for public purpose. We have to relocate them so that we can have a beautiful functional gateway to Nigeria. For now, I am giving them till October 1st to shut down the old terminal so that we can use the new one. This is coming barely 4 months after the immediate past Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, said the two private jet terminals and hangars were obstructing the efficient use of the international wing of the airport. So they've been given until October 1st before we'll stop using them, and then we move to the international terminals. Story is on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. This is still trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM. We're looking through major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We're moving on now to the Nation newspaper. And the major headline there says federal government halts Nigeria Air. Okay, that's still a follow-up to the story that we just concluded with from the Punch newspaper. Well, airport concession suspended. Foreign airlines to operate from new terminal in Lagos from October 1st. So the highlights of that story is that Nigeria Air project has been put on hold. Concession of Lagos Abuja airports to wait. Closure of old terminal at MMIA October 1st. Foreign airlines are to fly from the new terminal October 1st. Removal of disused aircraft has been given 90 days. Those are the highlights from from that particular story. So, but focusing on Nigeria Air now, yes, as of the last count, the federal government had sunk 3 billion naira into the Nigeria Air project before May 29. Let's not forget, Ethiopian Airline, which got the franchise to run the national carrier, was to have 49% stake. And there's a whole lot of, brouhaha that happened as regards the Nigerian Air. But now it has been suspended. Shouldn't there be a probe for it?
There has to be a probe. And that's what Festus Keyamo, the new Minister of Aviation, is saying. That there's going to be a probe as to what happened with Nigeria Air. From the report now, we spent about 3 billion naira, if not more. Paying consultants, going into all manner of funny arrangements, shrouded in all forms of secrecy. Because again, if you spend 3 billion naira and there's nothing to show, because where are the aircraft now? Where is Nigeria Air? There are no offices. There's nothing to show. It's important that we have to probe that. Apart from even the Nigeria Air contract, you remember that billions of naira were used to purchase fire vehicles, at the airport. So a lot that we still need to check as far as the last government is concerned. But my worry is this: will this government be ready to really probe the activities of?
Hello, Fuad. No, we can't hear you. I can't even hear you at all. All right, I'll try to reconnect with you. We'll continue that particular conversation, of course. But then, still on that particular story, local airlines under AON, let's not forget that, they opposed that petition. But then, looking into probing Nigeria Air, I think it's something that, should also be approached by the federal government. But Fuad will definitely complete his thoughts when we try to reconnect with him. But more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. The federal government as federal government halts Nigeria Air.
Let's probe and see what the probe would bring. I'm not. If you tell me if I'm excited about these probes, I'll say no. This is not the first time we've probed, but let's see whether anything will come out of this. But again, it's about the resources and monies of the people. So if you have 3 billion and there's nothing to show, we should probe. And if we probe, if anybody is indicted, at least we should prosecute too and punish. So probe, prosecute, and punish for me.
It's okay. Well, also just above the masthead of the Nation, we have Akeredolu returns soon, says Ondo State government. We've been hearing that for quite a long while now.
Our politicians, these are our politicians. If a man is sick, and he's not just sick, he's battling what was supposed to be a life-threatening ailment, can they just allow the man to rest? And again, if you say we should allow the man to rest, can the man not even allow himself to rest? Is it by force? It's obvious that this man is battling a life-threatening ailment. Anybody can fall sick, we agree. But the man should allow himself to rest, and the people urging him on should also allow him to rest. Is there something about governance that we don't know about, Sandra?
Well,
is there something in government that we don't know?
Oh, in
Maybe
Ondo
there's something
State.
there.
Maybe there's something in Ondo State that, he
Is
doesn't want
it,
to,
is it only in Ondo?
he doesn't want to disappoint his people. What?
But look, like they always say, it's only when you have life that you can pursue things now.
Yes.
When you are not okay.
Thank you very much, Fuad. Well, that's all we can take, unfortunately, but I'll just read out the headlines from Vanguard newspaper so we can call it a day on trends in the papers and move on to Milan Focus. I have here on the front page of Vanguard, poor governance responsible for banditry and kidnapping in the Northwest. And that is coming from our Vice President Kashim Shettima. Interesting. We also have here 25th anniversary. Our 16 years in power. Nigeria's golden era. PDP boasts. It's okay. Stories on,
They should tell that. They should tell that to the Marines.
the stories on page 8 of Vanguard. And finally, scarcity. NNPC directs marketers to Pinnacle as pipelines under repair, says Ipman. Okay. The story is also on page 8. I think that's another one that I would have loved for us to have a conversation on. But then stay with us. Don't go anywhere. This is still Mainland 98.3 FM. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus, where you get to be a part of the conversation. My name still remains Omobola Sandra, and I have Fuad Sahid via the phone line. Please stay tuned.